Good evening. Welcome to Virtual Gay Wine Week. I'm Gary Saperstein, owner of Out in the Vineyard, and I am thrilled to be here with you tonight. Not how we want it to be, but this is the best way possible. Thank God for technology. And I'm really looking forward to this first event as part of Gay Wine Week because we're going to be really talking about something different than probably we normally would be talking about if we were all together. And we're going to have a conversation in and around Black Lives Matter. And I think that it is important to me personally and professionally to have this conversation. If it's anything that I have always believed in, it makes conversation for us to keep moving forward. It's all about changing hearts and minds. And I hope that with this evening, we're going to, in some way, start that. And I've invited 4 African-American people who are in the wine industry here in Sonoma and Napa County. And we're going to be talking about their what it's like to be Black, working in a white, male-dominated industry, and not only that, living in also a white male-dominated industry. So I hope you'll sit back, relax, pour yourself a glass of wine, Sonoma County if you have it, and we're going to start this conversation. And I'm going to introduce you to our 4 vintners. And so I think I wanted to really open up this conversation. And I think a good place to do that is really to talk about just with what's happening right now with the Black Lives Matter movement. How has it resonated with you, like personally with you? And because I think that it probably brings up a lot just from maybe growing up to, where you are today and in your work and everything like that. So I'd love to hear how this is all sort of resonating with you and how you're sort of working around it and dealing with it. So you want to start, Lloyd?
Sure. I think it brings up memories for all of us about how we've been treated or mistreated. I remember we moved from the Bronx to Queens, an all-white neighborhood. I go to the grocery store. My mother gave me a big list. Not familiar with the store, walking up and down the aisle. This lady saw me and thought I was there to rob the place. Goes to the store manager. The store manager calls the police. Now, I have no idea this is going on. I'm just walking up, putting things in the basket. One of my neighbors was there. Heard what was going on. I come around the aisle. She sees me, starts yelling at the people, saying, "He's not robbing the place, he's my neighbor." But the only reason why they thought I was robbing the place was because I was Black in an all-white neighborhood, in an all-white store.
How old were you, Lloyd?
14.
Oh, my word.
Mm-hmm. And this was in New York?
In New York.
In New York, yeah. Yeah.
So it just brings back memories I think we've all had from being, there was another time I drove by a police car. It wasn't speeding because my brother ran internal affairs. So we knew what to do and what not to do.
Right.
They saw me in a Jaguar and they pulled me over.
Right.
Why? Because they saw a Black person in a Jaguar. They thought I stole it. Once I showed my brother's credentials to them, they were extremely apologetic, sorry for pulling me over. I mentioned to my brother, and he called the precinct and lodged a complaint. But I think we've all had experiences, fortunately nothing like has been in the news, but we've all had experiences where we've been profiled not because of our actions, but because of the color of our skin.
Yeah. And what about for you, Fern?
Well, the recent climate politically has, much like Lloyd said, it reminds you of things that you've gone through. Specifically with the George Floyd piece. I haven't watched the video. I don't care to watch the video. I've experienced it in my own life. I know what it feels like to have a knee on my neck and a knee in my back by multiple police officers. So the thing that's really eye-opening or resonating most is that now other people are able to see these undocumented stories that people have had to endure and learned how to basically navigate their life to survive situations and encounters. But what I really, really am hopeful for is that now with this newly invigorated enthusiasm around like making change, that actual change can come about, and setting up infrastructures and systems that can allow for actual change to take place. So it's tough to see that not a lot has changed. However, strides forward are always being made through different eras and generations, and I believe this generation can make the most powerful impact on future generations.
Right? How many Black people have to die in that manner before change happens? It's It's like when is it enough? How many? Is there a certain number? I mean, it's crazy. And
the only thing that's helpful right now is everybody's phone has a camera on it.
Yeah,
And the stuff is being recorded.
exactly.
10 years ago, 15 years ago, the same stuff happened, even worse.
Right.
But there was no one there to document it.
That's a really good point. Very true. Very true. Crazy. And how about for you, Brenae?
I think I'm really bitter because
You have every right to be.
I feel like racism isn't new. So to your point of how many people have to die to get here, a lot have died. A lot are continuing to be killed. And I think with the focus on Black people right now, it's forcing us to really relive a lot of things that maybe we have repressed. Like I know for me, as I come to events like this, or I respond to different articles asking for my opinion, I'm having to like jog my memory of things I have on the back burner that I've just kind of set back that I don't want to relive. And so I'm having to relive, even just the nuances of microaggression or things like that, but it's bringing it all up. So I get really emotional because I'm like, here I am having to talk to you about things, and in most of those instances there were other people there that could have said something or stepped up or made it stop, and they didn't. So now all of a sudden they want to check in.
Right. Yeah.
So I know for me, I'm just like, what's different now? Like, and what's going to come of this? And I think, I didn't expect to get like this on the first question, but like, is there actually going to be tangible solutions coming from this, putting Black people back through the trauma of things that have happened in their past?
Right.
Because it's painful, and I continue to be strong and successful in these situations, but like now I'm digging up 30 years worth of things so people can finally understand what it's like to be a Black person. So I hope for me there's actual change that comes from it, because it has not been easy for any of us, any level of experience. I don't care how you rate them. I think they're all painful no matter what's happening to you, whether it be physical or emotional. But there has to be some kind of change from this, because I can tell you, if nothing changes from us taking on the burden of responsibility to educate everybody about what it's like to be a Black person, then I just don't want to be a part of it. Like, take me out. I'm going to go figure out my own success. I'll bring in the community that wants to be there, but it's incredibly trying to even have a conversation like this.
Yeah. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Exhausting. Absolutely.
I'd love to piggyback on what Brenae was saying, is that I truly hope that this is going to be a moment for us, for the entire world, because what could possibly happen, as with many things in the past, is this small catalyst really should be lighting the powder keg where it drives everyone to action. And I think now is the fact is everyone has a phone. People are now documenting it. So it's no longer my word against your word, or you're upset because you're Black and everything else. But this movement is specifically around Black Lives Matter. And in the past, we've all tried to be apolitical, say the right things, do the right things, not to use the right words. And it's a call to action. Black Lives Matter. It's not all lives matter, blue lives matter. It is Black Lives Matter. A lot of things have happened to push civil rights forward. And there were a lot of tragedies, but there were some catalysts that moved us forward. And I truly hope, with what I'm seeing now with so many young kids putting their arms around this and really becoming very engaged and very vocal, and it's a call to action, I hope it's not going to be a moment in time where we talk about it now. It'll float up on social media. It'll be the hot cause that every retailer or every business wants to talk about. And then if the page turns 3 months from now, I truly feel that we're at a point where if we do this the right way and everyone gets out to vote, and as a community, we speak as one voice, and we keep saying it over and over and over again, that it will move us forward. So for me, I'm optimistic.
Right.
And I know I can't change the past. I can't change what people feel about me when I walk in to see a client and they have no idea who I am, what I do. All they see is the color of my skin, and they've made a judgment of who I am and what my worth, what their perceived worth of me is. So, that is there. It's water under the bridge. I think now we have to start looking forward, and I'm actually very optimistic from what I'm seeing. So I truly hope that it's not going to be a moment in time.
You have to have hope. There's no doubt about that. And I mean, in just relating as being a gay man.
One of my favorite people in the world, Krista Scruggs, is Black, bisexual, vineyard manager, winery owner, and she and I have talked about our experiences together, and that added layer of scrutiny on your sexuality. I just, being Black is its own battle. So to have that on top of it in a position that you're not supposed to be in, like.
And especially your vineyards are so highly respected.
Oh, yeah. And so when speaking with Krista, it's like, she already isn't supposed to be there. But now you have these 3 other things that are like, working against you. But I will say in that same respect too, it's worked for her. So it's like this double-edged sword. And even for me, just being a Black woman, it's positive and negative at the same exact time. I have a lot of white men that are very, very edgy about the success that I have and just have put it back to me being Black. That's why I'm there. I'm an equal opportunity hire. I'm a diversity hire. So, that's why she's getting the accolades. When I have the same skill set, same, job title, I probably have been in my job longer, but I get demoted to just who I am as a person, when getting into the job, Black and woman was the last thing that was even like worthwhile to see if I could get the job done.
Was that something, did you ever think of that going into the job, that I'm going to work in the wine industry? I'm a woman, I'm a Black woman in this white male dominated world.
No, so I grew up farming. I was raising pigs. And so I did that because I love pigs. And that was a way to make money. And, I got to have my own pig. And I actually went into school as animal science, but I started drinking wine. And then I was like, I have a crops and horticulture degree. I can probably grow it. So I got into wine because I loved drinking it. Like, call me a wino because I am one. But I got into wine because I wanted it. And, Gallo actually had a magnum of the wine I was drinking. So I was like, all right, this is going to work out. And then, doing my research on the E&J Gallo winery, it was like, largest family-owned winery, opportunities galore. like, this is where I'm going. I didn't think white owned, black owned, otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
It was opportunity. And, you know, thinking back 7 years ago when I was hired, I don't think much has changed. Like, if I had the opportunity to go to a black-owned winery, I don't know that I would do it. Does it have the same opportunities that I'm being afforded here?
Right.
Are there the same allies in place that are lifting me up and giving me a platform? For me, being a Black woman in ag, I'm looking for opportunity. Where do I fit in? Because I know I stand out. So how do I make that work for me?
Mm-hmm.
And then also, how do I get put in a position to show other Black women and other people of color and other Black men, like, there's an opportunity for you here too? Because while I support Black owned all day, a lot of Black owned wineries are tiny, like
Right.
10, 20 employees. So maybe they don't have the opportunity to hire everybody. So if there's an influx of Black wine professionals, like if we all only shoot for Black owned wineries, I think there's a little bit of a disservice there,
Right.
because there are more than a few white owned wineries that want to be allies and want to have Black wine professionals and want to create space and opportunity. And some of them just don't know how, but I think that's, again, the burden of responsibility as being a Black wine professional, is to infiltrate those, create opportunities for others, and make it, you know, kind of this salad bowl of employees
Right.
in the industry. So definitely don't regret my decision not going Black owned. But again, I didn't think about my race or my gender when
Right.
entering the wine
Right.
industry. I just knew I
That's
was.
hopefully the only color that we should be thinking about in the wine industry is the color in your glass.
Ultimately, but I mean, I think you need to think about the color of people's skin too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think diversity means just Black. We are focused in on Black Lives Matter, so I'll continue to put 99% of my attention there. But I think you do need to pay attention to skin color.
Mm-hmm.
You want Asian people, you want Indian people, you want all ethnicities in there, because if you're making a wine that brings people together, you want to be able to have that perspective in the room when creating it.
Right. Yeah.
So
And that's what wine is about. That's what food wine is all
Yes.
about.
Yeah.
It
So
is about bringing
ultimately,
everybody to the table.
yeah, our wine might be orange, blue, pink, red, white, you know, but I think there's a disservice if you don't pay attention to, if you have to see color, because you want the people on your team able to speak to the demographics and the palettes that you're making the product for.
Right.
You know, you want your marketing teams to understand what's going to resonate with the Black community and everybody else's community. So I think you have to see color, because that's what's going to diversify your team and elevate your company to represent the millennial generation, the Gen Z, and then the generation after that. Because I think being a millennial, like, I want to see stuff that represents me. I want to see stuff that represents my friends and family, which is, you know, everybody under the sun.
Right.
So I think you have to pay a little bit of attention to color when you're especially when you're hiring, and it can't be in a negative way. You're paying attention because you want to grow.
Right.
Because if you hire just a bunch of Black people,
Yeah.
that's great. You know, I do it, but, you know, don't shun out, you know, the other Black and brown lives,
Right. Mm-hmm.
because we all have something to offer.
Right. I would think that any company, I'll use this specifically to the wineries, the demographic of the client that's coming into the tasting rooms, that's buying wine, that's just visiting, has changed. They're no longer white Anglo-Saxon Protestant men. There are a lot of people that are coming in that are brown, Black, gay, straight, young, old. So it's a wide assortment. So if you're not ready to step up to have your team members reflect what that demographic is, because that's the first way of knowing if you belong there, to see other people like yourself when you walk into that tasting room. If that company is not marketing effectively to fit all of those categories, and I'm not saying to be one size fits all, but really be able to touch on different points of, to be able to tell that story to people that it would resonate to, and they could see yourself in. They're pretty much dinosaurs. So I think those old guard wineries that are still advertising to one specific clientele, they're probably going, in a few years, they're going to have a very difficult time, because the new generation, they are purchasing based on social consciousness. So they may love that wine, but they're also going to do a little bit more of a deep dive to see what it is you're doing for the community, how you're giving back for the community, how are your dollars affecting the footprint of where you live and your neighborhood. And when they walk in and they see no one that looks like themselves, be sure they're probably going to look around. They may not be staying so long to be engaged and purchasing.
And David, isn't that true of also being a gay man? Right?
Yes.
I mean, because we look at that as being gay also. Where are their dollars going
Right,
to?
exactly.
What are they supporting or not supporting?
Exactly,
Or,
yeah.
it's sort of the same thing.
We've had this conversation, John and I came here because of John being relocated for his job, because we lived in New York for most of our adult lives. We're both from the Northeast. And the pink dollar in the Northeast is very, very powerful. Long Island, the Hamptons, the Fire Island, there's a lot of money that's there. And the game culture is very vocal there. And it's very interesting that to see it out here in Sonoma, out in the Vineyard, to me, when I heard about it, it resonated 100% because we can't be forgotten. We are the ideal customer, 2 incomes, no children. I know there's a term for it. I can't remember what it's called.
Double income, no dinks.
Dinks, that's what it is. Double income, no kids, right? I've heard someone has said that before. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But so we're dinks, double income, no kids. So we are, I would say if you really wanted to find a very easy way to connect is talk about diversity and really put a lot of different people in your imagery and in your marketing. Right. And don't be afraid to actually do something and support pride and things like that, because a simple ad could speak volumes as to where you are and how much you have moved forward. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Fern, what about for you? So Black, gay woman in the wine industry.
Well, for the first 5 years, I didn't even know I was in the wine industry. But the crazy part is the parallels with the industry that I was very much in, which is tech. It's oftentimes you are the representative for every Black, every gay, every woman that people interact with.
Right.
That's a lot of pressure.
The poster child.
It's like you're the gateway and you're like the one. But it's been very telling just navigating the space. And I've tried to be very intentional in creating community around what it is that we do. And with my involvement with like the Oakland LGBTQ Center in Oakland and San Francisco Pride and Oakland Pride, like we were able, all of the wine for Oakland Pride last year was sourced through Black vines and through Black-owned vineyards. And it was some non-Black owned, but still we were able to make that connection. Right. And that's the first time that we were able to do something like that, which is paramount. So it's always an opportunity to enlighten, to inform, to provide awareness and visibility. And that's what we're all about in creating community that is truly, truly speaking to the diverse demographic of this world. And we lead with love. We're, like I said, we're extremely intentional in what it is that we're doing. And we want to continue to spread love, provide space for people just to be, and always make you smile. If you leave anything that we do and you're not happy, I'm going to personally come and find you and figure out what we need to do to tweak that experience.
I'll drink to that.
That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. I like that you, that it's intention. You have intention and you follow through with that intention. Because that is huge. That's what so much of what we do here is about. And Lloyd, for you also, you came to the wine industry from a very successful career, right? In finance? In finance. You owned a very high profile winery.
Yes.
when you came here, Vianza, like you mentioned that, before starting your own winery. So how was that trajectory for you in being a gay Black man in this industry?
Unlike my prior career, I found people in Sonoma to be very open and receptive. In my financial world, being Black was a challenge. Being gay was the kiss of death. So I never told anyone that I was gay. Never brought my partner around anyone. Because being Black was tough enough.
Right.
Coming out here, though, I found people very open, very receptive. When I took over the winery, I had the Vintners and Growth Association has an annual picnic.
Right. Yeah.
So I decided, I offered the property to host the picnic.
Yeah.
Everyone that came was very open, very receptive, got the bear hugs. If you need anything, give us a call. And I never experienced anything like that in my prior life.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
So it was very rewarding coming out here and being part of this community. And fortunately, I never really experienced anything bad out here, anything negative.
Mm-hmm.
Lloyd, when did you come out to Sonoma? When did you move here from back east?
Part-time in 2007.
Okay.
Full-time in 2015.
Wow.
And part-time was 2 weeks here, 2 weeks in New York. And I started spending 2 weeks out here because I could operate anywhere, fortunately. And I found coming out here was much friendlier and easier to operate than it was in New York.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good to know. So, which leads me to working in the industry and being Black. Have you experienced any personal racism at all? Systemic or otherwise? That you can recall, or recent, or ever, that you experienced it here in Sonoma. And yes, Sonoma is quite a liberal region. There's no doubt about that. We have a huge Latino community that is, that deals with their own sort of race, has their own racist issues that we deal with here as well, as we're seeing with COVID, but have you personally experienced any of that in the work that you do here in Sonoma at all? Have you ever been pulled over here within the region at all? You have, Brenae? Yeah.
I mean, what's a 23-year-old girl driving a $50,000 truck doing? So I got pulled over a lot because of that. Where are you headed? What do you do? Like, what are you pulling me over for? Because, I have this brand new truck. But I think a lot of what I've experienced is microaggressions. We don't like the Braves because they're not nearly as professional as a weed. If my wife hears that I was out with an attractive Black girl, I'm gonna have to tell her it was for work. And I'm in plaid. I got my boots on.
Right.
Not looking like this. Or, oh my God, you're an Amazon. What are you doing here? Or having my credentials questioned, or asking if I'm a secretary or in marketing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of microaggression. It's rarely overt racism. I can't even, off the top of my head, think of something super, obviously racist. It's always been this covert.
But those times that you got stopped.
Oh, yeah.
Do you, because of being Black and growing up, know that, okay, I have to play it cool with the cops here. I'm just going to answer their questions and stay calm because I know this could escalate. Is that in your mind at all?
You're raised knowing that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know that before you have a license.
Yeah.
No sudden movements. You tell the cop when you're going to reach for something. You tell you get pulled over, all your windows are down.
You put the
You
light
ask
on
before,
in the
right?
car.
Yeah. I remember I was terrified because I have all my information on my phones. And so I was like, I got to reach into my glove department or like my little center console to get it. And I'm terrified.
You have to ask before you actually go. You're going to say,
oh, yeah,
I'm reaching into the glove compartment to get my insurance.
Wow.
Is that okay?
Wow.
To ask permission?
Wow. Something I would never think of.
I mean, you even see a cop and they pull out behind you. Lights don't even have to be on before just instant anxiety and fear is coursing through you. Whether, I mean, I can't imagine how my brother feels, but like even being a black woman, an attractive black woman, I'm sitting there like, like, you know, what? And yeah, you're shaking to your core. And even after the experience is done, you're just not right for the rest of the day. But you're raised being taught that. Right. It's not to say like, I definitely wasn't raised saying do not trust cops. All cops are bad. That has never been the case.
Right.
But just know you might run up on a cop that just is out for the wrong reasons.
And have a bad day.
And you need to always play it safe.
Play it safe. Yeah. And David, you said earlier, you said about, you sell Coravin, the wine preserver, and that you go around, you travel all around this region, going into stores, high-end stores, most of them really nice high-end stores. What have you, and you mentioned something earlier that a lot of people you think view you first,
right?
For the color of your skin.
Absolutely. I'll answer that in two ways. Yeah. I think definitely here in Sonoma or in the major metropolitan areas, because since moving to California, I realized that it is not San Francisco and LA. There's a big open area where people are extremely conservative and extremely prejudiced. And it actually brings me back to stories I've heard when I was younger. But yes, it's micro bits of racism that you encounter. So you walk into a store and you just say hello, and immediately you can sense around you that there's movement or conversations going on. And I'll use one of my retail partners as an example. And, the next thing you know, while you're standing there waiting for the manager or the department manager to come out, security has now walked by you 3 times. Or is everything okay? There is a perceived notion that they don't know what I do. So for someone, I guess, in my field of work and what I do, they're just assuming I might be there for something they're assuming that I'm there to steal or to do something that, is not good. But one of the things that I have to say is that I learned at a very early age, because I came to the United States when I was 9 years old. And my parents, when they came before me, they've always, they encountered so much prejudice that they were shocked by it, because I was born in Trinidad in the West Indies. So, but coming here, my parents always said, you will always have to work twice as hard as everyone else just because of the color of your skin, because people will always perceive you as not being good enough, not being smart enough, not being engaging enough. So you kind of learn that. And then as I got to 12, 13, 14, I have 3 older brothers. So you start learning the drill. When you go somewhere, you learn to say, yes, sir, no, sir. If you get pulled over by the police, you ask the question, is it okay if, your hands are always on the steering wheel. So I think for most people of color, it's ingrained. We're hardwired. Right. And the anxiety doesn't ever go away. That's the whole thing. So when you are stopped or someone speaks to you in a way that's disrespectful, it's very difficult to remain calm and not to scream out, do you know who I am? Do you know what I do? Do you know what my background is? Or any of those things, because they don't know who we are. They have no idea that, that you have had many successful businesses and you're all accomplished and you're running a wonderful program and you're running one of the most high-end wineries, but they don't know what it is. So you really have to be able to keep it in check and not to exemplify what their perception of you is. Right. So you learn that. And so there is going to be racism, but you just really have to understand that that's the way it is, you know, and it's how you react to it is really what makes a difference.
Right.
So,
Sorry.
go on, please.
Just to add to that, like being raised, you're kind of raised to be non-threatening and more approachable.
Mm-hmm.
So I know as a Black woman, it's like smile,
Right.
greet everybody first. Being in the store, you have to make sure like you're waving
Waving to the cameras.
You acknowledge the store associates, like you're like, maybe I'm dressing up more, maybe I'm not showing up in sweats and gym clothes because I need to show that I can afford to be in that store.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like, a little bit ludicrous, but like I need to show that I belong there. Otherwise I'm going to be followed, and I still might be followed.
Right.
Or even being in my truck and having to prove I bought the truck. My name is on the registration.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter because you're going to be profiled. So let me make this as easy as possible. Let me make myself as approachable as possible so that I seem more trustworthy and more respectable. Because if somebody has an agenda, it's going to go through, but let me make this as easy as possible for myself. So even when I don't feel like smiling or greeting anybody, I'm going to do it to make my life a little bit easier and make the process go by a little bit.
Right.
Even going into some of the wineries not as a business partner, but as a customer, you sometimes see it. I will go into a tasting room and I'm there with my husband and whomever else I'm with. And I've come in first and I've seen every person working behind the counter not acknowledge me or simply walk by, not hello, how are you? Full conversation going. And then John, my husband, walks in and everyone stops what they're doing to come over to acknowledge.
Right.
And then the whole conversation changes to be a much more engaging, much more elevated interaction.
Yeah.
And you deal with that. And for the 25 years we've seen it as we've been together, but you understand it. And I think the key of it is how we as Black people respond to it, because it is not going to help by us rattling the cages and pulling up the signs. There has to be a way to do it in a very concerted effort, so that you don't play into what the stereotype of what their perception is of you, because they're going to say, you see what I mean? See, that he's Black.
She's angry.
Yeah, you see, angry Black woman, and so it's
and
it's
that's
a
what, like I
challenge.
said at the beginning, isn't that's what hopefully this movement right now, this moment in time is about? Is there that way to change the hearts and minds, the way people think?
Right.
And Fern, so for what you do,
Yes.
you started a company, Black Vines, to bring Black winery owners, vintners together to promote to the Black community, have tastings, and also promote those wines just outward into the larger community. What
prompted
what
that?
have you faced in starting that, making that happen?
The thing was the experiences that I was having as a young wine lover weren't always enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
I would come to Napa. My father was a tour bus driver. He drove tour buses from San Francisco, and they had a wine country tour. So as a child, I would go on tours with him, and I would be just sitting there and going through a wine country tour. So as I got older, as soon as I hit 21, I wanted to experience these wine country tours. And at times, you walk in and you are not considered a consumer of record. They don't care that I'm in IT and making that tech money. They don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
They see me with braids. My appearance is my appearance. I'm a masculine presenting woman.
Mm-hmm.
And it is what it is. And I'm completely unapologetic about that.
Exactly.
I'm going to be who I'm going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality was the whole notion of Black Vines was to create a space for community to enjoy those luxuries minus the bullshit that you have to deal with in those spaces.
Yeah.
And it's not just for Black people, it's for everybody who wants to come and enjoy excellent wine. But we also wanted to provide that level of awareness, that level of exposure,
Right. Mm-hmm.
that ability to taste award-winning wines from boutique wineries that may not have tasting rooms, and just create community around that. And we also did a spinoff of Black Vines for, I want to say, the 5 or 6 year anniversary of Oakland Pride, where we did Pride of Vines. So it was LGBT-owned wineries and artists, and it was just a beautiful experience.
Mm-hmm.
So again, there's times where you want the systems to change, but sometimes you have to create those systems
Right. Mm-hmm.
that can counter what it is that you're going through, to make the experience a totally different experience. So I see myself as a change maker all the time.
Yeah.
Like if it's not available, then how can my team work to change it? Can we create something similar? Can we create something better that's specifically going to do what we're about, which is, again, it's building community, it's spreading love, it's being a multifaceted ability to create community.
Right.
And community is where it's at. And spreading love and joy and things that don't make you feel threatened to go in spaces. Because at times I've spent more money trying to prove that I'm supposed to be in the space
Right.
because
Overcompensating.
complete
Right.
overcompensation
Mm-hmm.
for just because of my own insecurity.
Right. Yeah.
So why even have to deal with that? We've created things to where we wanted to eliminate those type of experiences, but also create a mechanism for people to feel comfortable when they do go to those spaces.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to spoil your glass.
Mm-hmm.
Have confidence. Always step into a space with confidence, knowing that you're supposed to be in whatever space that you're in.
Right. Right.
Because
You
you would
belong.
not be occupying that space if you were not supposed
Right.
to be.
Absolutely.
Right.
So,
Who said it? If they don't give you space at the table, well, leave the table.
yeah, leave the table. Get your own create your damn table.
Create
and bring
your
chairs
own,
and
create
food.
your own
Right.
table, and that's what you were able to do with Black Vines. It's
Yes.
great that. And starting that, did you find was it difficult to even get Black-owned wineries to want to be a part of this?
Well, they didn't know who I was,
Right.
but luckily, I went to the Association of African American Vintners, one of their symposiums, and was able to connect with the Lou Garcia, specifically, and actually Stephen Sterling from Esther Lena, who's they're no longer around, and that's a story that is for even more discussion later. But Lou was super supportive from year one. Stover Oaks has been a part of Black Vines. He's driven wine down for us. He's helped negotiate and kind of champion what it is that we do. And we've had the opportunity to kind of debut a lot of the Black winemakers. So I know Paula Harrell from P. Harrell Wines. We were one of her first events. Theo from Theo Paula's Vineyards. Her first vintage, we were got one of the first events that she's done. But what we do is it's very much about just creating that opportunity. And then we also have like a huge kind of marketing arm where we'll get television interviews, we'll get press as well, just to continue to push forward what it is, that awareness. And it's always started out as a celebration of Black history. So it's always the last weekend of February, but we've coined it as celebrating Black future.
Right.
Because it's the future of art, it's the future of wine, it's the future of music, it's the future of us, and us creating our space.
Yeah.
And really forging forward in that. So we've had a ton of support. We just want to continue to push us forward. And, looking at it, we are the longest standing Black wine festival in the nation. but even more so, we are older than Bottle Rock. Like we're older than we're probably the longest standing wine festival in the East Bay, which is Oakland, Berkeley,
Right.
From San Jose up.
And you got to do your event this year, right? It
We
was
were
before,
one of the last.
right? You were the last event
major
before
events.
shutdown, right?
Yeah, and it was just by the skin of our
Mhm.
teeth. I just didn't even watch the movie. I was like, you know what?
And I'm sure it must be because, just hearing you talk right now, I was relating it to going to like a gay event, like coming to Out in the Vineyard event or other gay events, that bringing the community together is so important to me. And that's what you're doing with Black Vines also. So I'm sure that you probably get everyone who's coming to these events, the festival, feels a sense of community
Yes.
at the same time. And it's like, I'm sure they're probably thank you for doing this. Thank you for making this happen. Thank you for bringing us together to experience what our community is doing in this industry.
It's a positive representation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a space, like one of the main things that we always wanted to do was provide a space to see Black men smile.
Right.
When can you go to a space where Black men are elevated in a positive light?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you see these brothers and sisters and just people interacting, intermingling, engaging one another. It's almost like a pride. You know, when you your first pride event, you're like, I can be me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's okay. So it's like it's the same kind of feeling where people can just be themselves and just let go of all the shit that you come into the space with,
Your baggage.
and just be.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to produce it at a level of excellence where it's live jazz. It's a phenomenal catered experience. And it's top-notch wine.
Mm.
And then you leave with a signature glass every year because we want you to take that home with you and be able to relive it every time you pour your glass of wine
Right.
or juice or water or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Right.
To be reminded of how you felt
Right.
when you were in that space.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. So, I mean, where does the wine industry, what does the wine industry have to do to help elevate Black vineyard managers, Black winemakers, Black owners of wineries? What do we need to do to make that happen more and have more of a presence so it isn't just considered a white male dominated industry? What do you think has to happen, Lloyd,
I think
to move
part
more in
of
that direction?
Part of it, you have to have the larger wine companies like a Gala recruit, go into high schools, go into colleges, and show minorities that there is opportunities for you. Because otherwise, it's an industry that most people of color don't even think about. Like to start a winery from scratch is about a $3 to $10 million investment. Not many people have that cash laying around.
Right.
To go into the vineyard world, you can probably answer this better than I can. It's a white dominated field from the people who run the vineyards,
Mm-hmm.
but most of the employees are Hispanic.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right? But you don't see a lot of Hispanic men or women running the vineyard. Someone mentioned, it reminds you of the old South, where you have the overseer
Right.
and the workers in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Yeah.
workers in the field never get to become the overseer.
Right. And that's where, Brenae, you come in,
Yeah.
right?
I
Because
go against the grain.
you have you are. I mean, I don't know if there are others in the industry. As far as I know, from what I've read, you seem to be the only Black vineyard manager. You work for a very high-profile company, and maybe I'm putting you on the spot with that or not. But do you feel that you can go to the company and say to Gina, we need to talk.
Yeah, so when I got back, I did a 6.5 month internship in 2013, and then a month and a half later was hired back full time. And Gallo gave me the responsibility of recruiting for all vineyard positions for 3 years. And one of the first things I did was look at the schools that we were going to and then who we were sending as representatives of the company. Turns out we were going to the same 4 schools, which is why we had 3 Jeffs, 3 Mikes, we had clones on the team. And I immediately was like, we need to expand where we're going. We need to open up the degrees that we're looking for, and then we need to mix up who we're sending. So because I was one of the few, I am still one of the few diverse members of the Vineyard team, I was going everywhere because people have this inherent trust when they look at a recruiting table or they look at a company. If they see people that they have some sense of relatability to, they're going to go. They're going to at least approach you. They may not even be interested, but they're going to see something that, maybe doesn't make sense. And for me, standing there in my boots and my plaid, what is it? What are you doing? And what do you do for the company here? So not only do you have to build a team that's going to be trustworthy to an incoming college student or high school student when you recruit, but then you got to hire them and then you got to retain them. So not only does there need to be a table that I'm welcome at, but there's got to be a comfortable seat for me. So you need to create a space that not only can I go in there and grow and learn, but I'm comfortable while doing it. Because if I got to fight every day to be there, eventually I'm going to give up. There's no reason for me to be this stressed out at work. And then you got to invest in them. So that's something that I've been incredibly fortunate with at Gallo is they've given me the tools to be successful. They have grown me. I've been super successful in the last 7 years, but there's got to be more Brenaes there's got to be more of me. So you got to recruit, retain, and promote and elevate them. And without that, you become stuck. So it's something that in the recent weeks I've had a conversation with. It's like, I'm a very visible face on the vineyard side, especially at the largest family-owned winery. So, how do we use that to our advantage? Because I think we've become a little bit comfortable having me there and using my face and my story. How do we create more positions? So that's something that I'm very passionate about is turning around and presenting this opportunity to other Black wine professionals. And when I go out there and talk to other students of color, I have to remind them, it's not going to be easy. We're very much in this sense of change in these changing times, but things aren't going to get easier tomorrow. So trust me when I say there are few pioneers leading the way right now. And when you enter this field, you're going to be a pioneer. You are going to have to work. Maybe you're not going to go through 100% of what I've had to go through, but you're going to go through some stuff and you're going to have to build mentors and a support team around you to allow you to continue to be passionate about what you want to do. But trust me when I say you're going to make it easier for the person coming in even after you. So you have to have not just the passion of wanting to be in the wine industry, but you have to have a sense of pride, knowing that you're working for a better future, not just for yourself, but for the person behind you. And if you don't have that sense of wanting to inspire others to bring them up, then it's going to be a rocky battle ahead.
And I think to add to that, one of the things that's really important within large companies is to have mentors. That's one thing that the white community has really gravitated towards. You put take them under your wings and you support them, you help them grow. People of color haven't gravitated to that. They haven't gravitated to that because there's no one willing to put us under their wings. And to me, it's one thing, to your point, to bring them into the organization. The important part is keeping them in the organization.
Retention.
And we're not saying keep people who are not qualified, because most of them are more qualified than their counterparts. But it's nurturing through the whole process so they feel welcome and they feel they have the opportunity to succeed.
Right. I can see that. And both you are all of you are pioneers in what you're doing right now. And Brenae, I think I get a sense from you, you know that, you recognize that. And that is so vital, because more people like you need to be working, and it's work, right? And it's like you said, it's exhausting work.
It's a burden of responsibility.
Right.
But I think as a Black leader in wine, this is the time to either step up or step aside.
Right.
As exhausted as we are, we got to sleep later, because if we don't do the work, nobody else is going to.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be. I know when I said I was really bitter, I still am, but like, when thinking of the opportunity here, even though I think this movement is super overdue, it's like, all right, well, it's here.
Right.
It's here. I'm not
And I
gonna
thought
wait
it's happening
till
right now before harvest, right?
yeah, well, thank goodness.
It's, but when you look at the wine industry, but step back just from the wine industry and let's look at society. People have walked before us. They've walked that road. They've passed the mantle on to our parents. All of our parents are probably thrilled that we are where we are right now. And now it's our responsibility to keep moving it forward.
Yeah.
So I think it's very, very important to never forget where you've gone, where you've come from, but to keep your eye going forward.
Right.
And I think that it's going to be extremely important for a lot of anyone in the industry is to have these very serious conversations on what is happening within their four walls. What do we stand for socially? How are we going about messaging it? How are we going to recruit and bring these people in? Use the models of some of the theater companies. California Shakespeare, they have people come in and they spend an entire week of immersion learning about it as part of an internship where it's not paid, but it's just really introducing them to what, being in the wine industry is, because many people don't even understand what it is and that that there's opportunity there for them. They finally introduce them to it. Now they bring them in. And how do you make them feel welcome? How do you make them feel as being part of the table and they belong there? And then the conversation that everyone should be having right now within their own companies is really speaking to the people within your organization. How do you feel being here? Do you feel you're treated fairly? What can we do to make it seem that you have more value?
Right.
Because that's the whole thing, is that I think there may be many people within every organization that wants to give their opinion. They've just not been asked.
Right.
And, a human truth is everyone wants to feel valued. And the fastest way to feel valued is to ask what your opinion is and genuinely listen to what they're saying. So I'm optimistic, but I'm always the optimist. But I think it's really our responsibility now. We have the mantle and it's up to us to keep moving forward. So
I love that. That's very true. Yeah. And that's what we need to hopefully see from this moment in time right now. And as you said, and I can totally understand, it's exhausting. It's mentally exhausting, even physically exhausting, to have to continually fight for everything, to fight for just equality and justice, because that's what everybody deserves. That's what everybody, that's our God-given right, period. That should be our God-given right.
And to that point, no one's asking for special treatment.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
We're just asking for the level playing field.
Right.
Yeah.
I know I have to work.
Yeah.
I know I have to work.
Yeah. We get it. We're
Came here to
yeah.
work.
It's not an equal opportunity.
Don't need a handout.
Yeah. We don't need any of that. It's
You're
just
not asking.
Yeah.
You're not asking for you to
Right.
give. Just provide the opportunity.
and then let us run from there. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And I think for a lot of people, that's all they're looking for. And it's misunderstood that no one is coming with a hat in hand asking for, please give me the crumbs. It's give me the opportunity, and I can run with it,
Right.
And so it's a turning point for a lot of organizations. But the conversation that is happening now, hopefully, it's not just here. It's happening in every office. Every HR person is having that conversation. Right. Every winery, every retail store, everywhere is having that type of a conversation right now.
Well, that's why I want them to do this. And even if this, as I said, whether these conversations are happening in a huge stadium, even though we can't do those right now, but if they were happening in a huge stadium, or they're happening here with just 5 people sitting around, or it's a one-on-one conversation, those are the things that I truly believe continually. We change hearts and minds. Sometimes it's as exhausting as it is. Sometimes it's just one person at a time.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Thank you for that. Anything else anyone wants to add to this conversation that I haven't asked that you want to share? I would love to open it up for you, really, to anything that you want to share.
I have one parting statement. I think in this year especially is one voice can shout as much as possible. Millions of voices can whisper and be heard around the world. So collectively, we can make a difference. And the biggest way to make a difference is to vote. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Stop just looking at things on YouTube and hitting likes or dislikes. Get out there and vote. If you're not happy with what you're seeing and you're looking at all the social injustices that are going on and you're angry and you're talking about it on Facebook, take it a step further, get out there and vote. Because by yourself, you just hitting a like button is not going to make a difference.
No.
But when millions of you decide to walk to the polls or mail it in, there's something for me I still love about going to the polling booth, but that's a generational thing, I think, but that is the one way to make a difference. And right now, I think it may be the only way to make a difference. Yes, and go out and vote. So, and I'm getting off my soapbox now. Thank you.
Right. Well, as you know, and I have a quote here from James Baldwin that really struck me this week that I think I saw on social media, where he said, "There's never time in the future in which we will work out our salvation. The challenge is in the moment, and the time is always now."
Yep.
And it is happening now. And I really hope that we do see that change and that you are all part of that change, from being owners of a business, for working and selling a product, out there in the world to help the wine industry, to be the youngest vineyard manager, Black vineyard manager, and a woman in the wine industry is truly you are all, and I hope you all feel should be, but I got that from you today, inspiring to younger people, older people, or people within your age ranges at this moment in time. But I want to say, I truly thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
This is lovely.
Your stories.
Yeah. This is lovely. Cheers.
The things that I could relate to in other ways of being a gay man. So, here's to the future and a brighter future for everybody, because that's what we need. So cheers to that.
Thank you. It was wonderful to hear everyone's stories. It was lovely.
Thank you for joining us this evening. I truly hope that you were inspired as much as I was inspired by the stories of our 4 vintners here today. And I hope that, as I said from the very beginning, that in some way it's all about changing hearts and minds. I hope that you go out there and find the way that we can change hearts and minds in this country. I also want to give special thanks today to our presenting sponsor, Miyoko's Creamery, who actually supplied all the cheeses that everyone got to enjoy before, during, and after our conversation tonight. And don't forget to join us tomorrow as Virtual Gay Wine Week continues. At 10 a.m., we have our virtual gay wine tours coming up, followed by the signature event of the evening, the Twilight Tea Dance, starting at 5 p.m. And then on Sunday, we have Drag Queen Bingo and Bubbles and Wine Auction at 10 a.m. in the morning, all to benefit Face-to-Face Sonoma County HIV/AIDS Network. So again, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you all tomorrow. Cheers.